basically the diversity in this room of all the agencies that are here. We have people from all over the state of Arizona, people from other states in the US, and we've got 4 international groups here as well, from Switzerland, Iceland, Canada, and Australia. We also have a couple of Fed agencies here, Air Force, DEA, Postal, sorry, didn't mean to forget you. But it just shows how, it doesn't matter where you are, what agency you work for, whether you're state, municipal, Fed, another country, law enforcement is law enforcement wherever you go in the world. This course, we started this program about 3 years ago in the city of Mesa, and we really figured out how to do it correctly about a year ago, primarily when we brought this fine gentleman on board, Lewis, last November. And in the last year alone, this program has exploded within our department. Our chiefs are all on board. We started day 1 of week 2 in our academy now, and we've seen dramatic improvement in how our officers operate, how they communicate, how they take people into custody. Injuries have dropped on both the suspect and the officer side by about 50%. We're not breaking hands anymore in eye sockets, if you know what I mean. I'm not saying there isn't a time and a place to do stuff like that, but we've reduced it by about half. So officers are safer, suspects are safer, litigation has dropped, and we look a whole lot better on YouTube. So, because as we all know, half the time our officers are in a fight, and it's on YouTube before their sergeant even knows what's happening. So, again, we all have the same goal in our respective agencies and cities, which is to stop violence, improve the quality of life for the people who live, work, and play in our respective cities, and make sure our officers go home safely. This program has helped us in Mesa exponentially. And you'll see it throughout the week, you'll see some videos, but a lot of it is going to be on the mat, probably good 25 hours out of the week, if not more. And with that, I hope you guys enjoy it. One housekeeping thing, this is a working academy. We do have 2 police academies going on right now. One's in week 19, the other one's in week 2. So forgive the guys in week 2, because they're still scared. We do share this facility with fire as well. Fire's got a class going too. But when you're moving around, if a group of people walk up and say, class 59 says good morning, staff or something like that, does not smile. You know what I mean? Because they're doing their thing that we all went through, for me, 21 years ago. And I still remember it. So with that, if there's anything that I can do, I'll be in and out all week. Let me know. My name's Kurt. And I'm going to turn it over to Lewis. So thanks again for being here and enjoy the week.
Okay, hello everyone. So here's what we have today. We have individuals that have been with me about a year here at Mesa that saw the program, and they were coming at it from the program that was here prior to me. We've got guys that have got 25 to 28 years with me from the federal and military side. I am not a guardian, not a police officer, and not a warrior. I'm not a soldier. I've been fortunate enough to be in law enforcement because my instructors were police officers, so I got in early. I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in '92. So I started in early with that, and I was teaching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to police officers in '95 and '96. A lot of the guys that have trained with you, that you've gone to courses with, if you trace them down through the years, they've gone through my courses in the '90s, early 2000s, and it kind of branched out from there. What I want to start this whole conversation with is, what is Jiu-Jitsu? So you guys are defensive tactics instructors. What's been your experience with Jiu-Jitsu? And anybody can speak, and if you don't, I'll kind of answer for you, because this is going across the entire country. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu isn't the answer for law enforcement, nor was judo or boxing in the 80s. So statistically, less than 1% of every department actually trains regularly for more than a few years in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu now or MMA. Before that, in the 80s, it was the same thing with judo and boxing. So what happens is, for my entire career, I've been doing this now for 30 years, I've traveled the entire world. I've worked for a lot of the 3-letter agencies at the trainer level. So what happens is, when you guys are looking at it, you come to people like myself, there's other people, C4C, EFC, you go all that. It's been going on like that for 30 years. You guys go, you take as much as you can from us, you go back as informed individuals, you go back to your department, you give them as much as you can. Let's use this, I like this, let's try to do this. There's 18,000 departments, that means you do the math for how many defensive tactics instructors, and they shift out everywhere from 2 to 5 years. So it's constantly changing. So nothing is uniform. So what I'm trying to propose, and I did it here, is I brought the system that I was using federally to law enforcement. So what we're going to try to do is I want you to think about Jiu-Jitsu in your head a second for what Jiu-Jitsu is and what it offers apprehension. And I want you to I'm going to try to change the paradigm. It's why you're here, because something has to shift. So injuries before I got, when I got here, there's tons of injuries in this department, just like the ones I was contracted to do in Florida. So I worked for a year or 2 years at different departments. They'd have a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu base, and then I would shift it because of the injuries and shoulder injuries and back injuries, and nobody wanted to train it. So what I'm trying to say is 1% trains in most of the departments. A lot of that 1% is you guys, and then the younger guys that come up. So how do we get the other 99% people involved in defensive tactics? So what I'm proposing is a uniform system that uses basically 9 different tactics. So it's techniques that can branch out to different things. And what I'm trying to sell you guys during this week is, can we agree on those 9 tactics? Because if we agree on those 9 tactics, the DEA or the postal guys can branch out and do something different that they want to do. But at least there's a uniform way that we can teach that's proven for safety, that's proven for liability from the administrative and managerial side. And then you could say, well, here's where we're at. If the officer or agent does anything else, they can say, I tried this, this, and this didn't work, and this is why I did this. It's better for after action reports, it's better for all the liability issues you come across. So that's what I'm going to try to show you guys over the week, and by the end of the week, I'm going to ask you individually if I achieved my mission with that. So I am, bottom line, a martial artist. I've done this as a child. I do this for, like, lack of a better word, psychological, spiritual reasons. I will always train. I've been fortunate enough to be trained a lot by you guys, so I'm always going to do this. But like I said, I'm not in the law enforcement. I'm not a soldier. I've been around special forces teams. That's how I started with contract work after 9/11. Some of those guys are here. And the idea was apprehension quickly and cleanly as possible. Jiu-Jitsu works against itself. So the last thing I want to say before we go over there, because it's all about training, is everybody says Jiu-Jitsu. It used to be Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. You guys, OCCS and all these different wrist locks that are still around, they came from Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. Now we're doing underhooks and pikes. We're doing wrist weaves. We're doing harnesses. That was my vocabulary in the 90s, and I got made fun of because it's like, what is that? It's not law enforcement. So now it's commonplace, but there's still no uniformity of how to teach it. So here's the thing. Jiu-Jitsu started with the military. Everybody knows this. I'm going to geek out for a moment. In Japan, it was all the samurai. Jiu-Jitsu had fish hooking, eye gouging. It did not have any ground fighting at all. If you hit the ground, the idea was to come up. And you could challenge me on this. I can show you the research, but the reality is Jiu-Jitsu came from the military. Then what happened was the samurais got banned. Japan went, tons of crime everywhere. The samurai were then hired to teach what becomes police department. That was Tokyo. It was the first police department in Japan, and it was the samurais teaching it. So at first, it was a lot of people were getting hurt. It was very crude. They didn't have apprehension. This guy came along, Kano, who ended up creating judo, and he was the one they agreed on had the best ways and methods of teaching police officers. There was no ground. Then what happened was he didn't want to teach police officers anymore because he came from a military instructor, and he wanted to teach all of Japan. He thought judo, which became, the jiu-jitsu became judo, would be good for everyone. Everyone should do it. It's good for your mind. It's good for your body. It would make everybody healthier in Japan. So he created judo. Judo is what became Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that year's judo. So what we do in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is us civilians, because we're living on the sacrifices of those who fought before us. So we're citizens. We benefit psychologically from Jiu-Jitsu, which is really judo. So what I want to get back to is, going back to, again, samurai, they dealt in teams, they dealt in groups, they always had weapons on them. Nobody ever fell to the ground and stayed on the ground, because then somebody else would come and just poke you and keep going. So the other thing is, every single country in the world had grappling before they had striking. Because I teach military combatives, it goes from long gun, sidearm, to knife. There's no punching. So it's the same thing with the samurai as far as their combatives. When they became Tokyo police and it went into apprehension, it was throws and then controls as teams, which we lack in America. So Jiu-Jitsu is a team sport. If you want to put it to military, you want to put it to police, but we're getting taught by people like me, who've been doing Jiu-Jitsu forever, both Japanese and Brazilian. You come to us and we're teaching you kimuras, we're teaching you guard, we're teaching you things that are individually based, that are not combat strategic, that are not police oriented. So what I'm going to teach you over there, we determined when I got here there was police Jiu-Jitsu. I told them for a year in interviews I did not want to do Jiu-Jitsu for police, because I had spent 30 years not doing Jiu-Jitsu for police. And I did judo, wrestling, and Jiu-Jitsu. I love grappling. So what I agreed with Chief Butler here, who put the name together and got it through the city, is I tied it back to Japan, samurai, Tokyo police, and I said, what if all these people that want to learn defensive tactics or teach defensive tactics that come to us, meaning C4C, EFC, myself, whoever's out there, what if we, instead of doing that, we ran it from the police side and we called it for what it is? So Butler had police jiu-jitsu in mind for that reason. So when I say jiu-jitsu, it's the least amount of effort for the maximum results. So if I can agree with you that there's two ways of controlling an arm that we all agree on, that these are the two fundamental ways, that Greco uses it, folk style wrestles it, judo uses it, jiu-jitsu uses it, and we all agree on that, those are two ways to control the arms, we put those in. If we can agree there's 2 or 3 ways to control the body, the hips, upper body, or the legs, then we agree to specifically that. And then we agree with, which I'm going to show you as our ground program, which is really, I think, our crown. If I show you that there's simple ways to control the person at the hips and at the hands, and you agree to that, then we have a functional beginning to what we're trying to do. So we call this ABC. So a couple more geek out moments. A is axiomatic. It means that we agree on those basics. Pistols, we can all agree. I've gone all over the world because of the liability and because of the time that everybody puts into that and the money involved. We don't have that for defensive tactics. So axiomatic means we all agree on the basic fundamentals. If I say 3 basic things that you require for firearms, you'll be able to all pretty much say the same thing. So if we agree on that axiomatic, the next thing is B, baseline. You're in a police department. It's the same thing with the Air Force or Army guys. If you have a bunch of people that just joined the military or police, you have a bell curve. You have the people that are not talented at all, and you got the people that are just awesome. Then you got that big middle, which is everybody. Baseline means that everybody in that entire loop can learn the same material. So the entire department or the entire agency or the entire branch can learn that. So it's universal, it's baseline, everybody can learn it. And the last one is C, comprehensive. That your SWAT teams, that your special forces, that your special teams will build on those things. And you're saying, well, Lewis, that's common sense, it's fundamental. If you go to every jiu-jitsu school right now in Arizona, just like in Florida, every coach teaches the fundamentals differently. It doesn't work. So it's not just the fundamentals. So I'm going to bring you back to all these things when we move forward. And what I want you to keep in mind is we're making jiu-jitsu a team sport, and we're going to look at it like a team sport, and you can be like, what does that mean? And then I'm going to break it down where every individual that does the techniques, if you work with 2 or 3 people, it will be the same exact techniques. Nothing will change. And if I can prove that to you, I think it'll be easy for you to sell it to your department. The last thing is this. If you go to people like myself in the private sector, which again has existed for 30 years that I've been out here, and it's a constant rotation and it goes nowhere, they're going to make you keep going back every year or 2 for research. So what I'm proposing is you take this course, you take all the material back if you like it. If it makes sense to you, try to sell it in your department. We will have people speaking from the medical community, we'll have administrators speaking to you guys also as why it works. If you agree to it, then I'm asking you to come one time again, which is the training drills. So when you take this out there, you're going to have the stuff, and if you like it and it flies, then the next thing you're going to come across is lesson plans, how to drill it slowly, how to build it up with recruits, how to build it up with your in-service guys that maybe have got only 4 or 5 years left and they don't want to learn it. That kind of thing, I'll show you the next course. After that, I never have to see you again. You keep it within your own department. There's no other exchange involved. If you leave and you haven't promoted anybody in your department to your position, then they have to come back. That's what I'm proposing. So the last thing I want to do, just for comedy's sake, before we head over, and then we have a sponsor in Born Primitive, so we want to play a video from them. But before that, I want you to watch this video just to have some fun with it. This is a video that shows why we don't go to the ground in Jiu-Jitsu. I mentioned every country had a grappling system. None of them had a ground system. So again, if you think of Braveheart or all those movies we've all seen, no one's on the ground for long or they die. So this is a video that I've always kind of used as just for comedy and see it. You'll see sports that involve multiple people, and you'll never see ground engagement lasting long. So we're just going to play this and then our sponsor stuff. So I'm just going to, this is Mongolian wrestling. So all they use is jackets and belts. The reason all grappling styles around the world use belts, and we're going to use it with PJJ, is because people usually carry tools there.
We're going to be wearing those uniforms later.
Yeah. That's the official PJJ. We didn't want to scare you the first hour.
Dan, you brought yours, right?
So a lot of this, and then you're going to see it in Glima, which is Icelandic, which is all the northern countries. So you guys, a lot of people here are fans of Vikings. they had no ground. They had to throw the guy to the floor and then they get an axe to the chest or something, so you'll see that as well. So those belts that look like something else, that's so they can grab their thighs and their belts. So I got this given as a gift. I have those belts at home, but everybody always kind of goes, what are those for? The idea is you can train, you can be in BDUs and not, instead of tearing the pants, you grab the waistline or the thigh, which are the two areas that are illegal in judo and illegal in sambo, because this takes away all the collar and sleeve grips. That's Greco. So Greeks and Romans did body locks and throws, and that became Greco-Roman wrestling. So every culture has this, which is no time on the ground. This is multiple opponent MMA. So what you'll notice is if anybody goes to the ground, it's over. So so Jiu-Jitsu is a team sport. This is what I want you to see. Jiu-Jitsu is a team sport. So they go to the ground when there's only a few of the enemy left. So yeah, it's actually law enforcement in the 80s, but. This is rugby. They can punch, they can kick, they can elbow, and they can wrestle, but you're not going to see anybody wrestle for the same reason. So when you see people on the ground, it's pins while the ball's about to hit their goal. So it's bare knuckle. It's bare knuckle fighting with kicks, punches, elbows, throws, and you can wrestle if you want. So again, it's a sport thing. So there you go. This is a jiu-jitsu that came before Brazilian or Japanese jiu-jitsu. Notice when they get closer, it's how quickly can I get the guy to the ground, pull out my dagger, and stab him. So the distance is a spear. It killed the most people in history. If you got past that, it's that. And you're going to see that. So anytime that they try to do realistic duels, or if you look at all the old codexes, this is what basically happened in the field. Then you either finish the guy or your partner comes around and spears him. See, that guy standing around would have helped them out. So this is going to be constant. So, or nothing like. So this is Western version of it. Same principle. That was a high single. And then he's going to pull his dagger out and then look for the visor. So everybody thinks these things couldn't move around. They were 60 pounds. Some of you guys carry. So these are the movies. And I just put this in there because these guys did folk style wrestling and they did versions of Greco. If you look at their old manuals, they did grabs at the waistline, grabs at the chest, and the idea was you were never going to get on the ground and roll with anybody ever. So the last thing I want to do is play a video from our sponsor. So we're sponsored by Born Primitive. It's a small company that went from a garage to a $100 million company. I think they get our message as people that are creating products for your line of work.
Every morning, we wake up knowing what's at stake. Freedom, honor, duty. This is more than a mission. It's the oath we took. It's the flag we wear on our sleeve and everything it stands for. We don't do it for money, glory, or fame, but for something deeper. It's for our families, for our freedom, for our way of life. And to anyone who tries to take that away from us, good fucking luck. Even when the mission is complete, training is never over. We are constantly honing our craft and sharpening our axe. That is the warrior mindset. This isn't just a brand to us. We're a part of these stories because we live these stories. And while we might have hung up the rifle and body armor one last time, our new mission is to outfit our nation's heroes with the best apparel on the planet. By the operator, for the operator. To those still standing on that wall, we salute you, the damn few. or primitive tactical for those who defend.
All right, gentlemen, we will be working steady throughout the week, so we've got 15 minutes and we'll get started. Right across the board.
Can I get Richard King and Daniel?
Yes.